Wow, what a year! Fantastic announcements, terrible news, and absolutely crazy developments. 2024 had plenty to keep movie and series fans on their toes. For the grand finale, we've put together this year's highlights for you in this video. From Henry Cavill's badass projects, to the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, to the next Equalizer movies with Denzel Washington. Get ready, here's our XXL format of KinoCheck news.
It would be a meeting of two giants. Hollywood insider Daniel Richtman reports that Michael Fassbender is set to take on the villain role in the new Highlander film with Henry Cavill. The reboot of the 1986 fantasy classic, directed by John Wick director Chad Stahelski, is eagerly anticipated as it is. First, the casting of superstar Henry Cavill in the lead role caused fans to go wild. Then came Stahelski's announcement that Highlander would be a kind of John Wick with swords. Now, Daniel Richtman has announced via his Patreon account that none other than Michael Fassbender is to take on the role of the antagonist. According to Richtman, Fassbender will appear as the Mongol. The Mongol is considered one of the most exciting characters in the Highlander universe, and first appeared in the comic series Highlander Origins: The Kurgan. Fassbender has already gained some experience wielding a sword. His appearances in Macbeth and Assassin's Creed are proof of this. Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Disney. It seemed like a closed chapter for everyone involved. All the more surprising that new information about the popular actor's return to the franchise has now surfaced. The rumor's source is the well-known Hollywood insider Daniel Richtman. According to him, Disney has changed its mind. The company is now considering casting him again in Pirates of the Caribbean 6, albeit in a supporting role. That would be quite spicy. After all, it was exactly this studio that kicked the actor out of all projects after the allegations made by ex-wife Amber Heard. Many Johnny Depp fans have still not forgiven the company. After all, he was also quickly replaced by Mads Mikkelsen as the key villain in Fantastic Beasts 3. So, has everything been forgiven and forgotten now? Well, what Disney might want is one thing, but what Johnny Depp wants is something else. During the trial with his ex-wife, he announced that no amount of $300 million and a million alpacas could convince him to return. He felt betrayed by Disney. But in the summer of 2023, People magazine quoted a confidant of the actor who said that he would definitely be open to making more movies. Anything is possible if it's the right project. Whether a supporting role in the sixth Pirates of the Caribbean movie is part of it is questionable. Disney would probably have to do a lot of persuading. On the one hand, for many fans, it would leave a negative connotation if Depp were to return to Disney after the events. On the other hand, there are also numerous comments like, "Pirates of the Caribbean without Johnny Depp? Count me out." Regardless of how it turns out in the end, the franchise is currently in a tricky situation. There's an end in sight. According to Hollywood insider Jeff Snyder, Fast and Furious 11 will be the last installment in the action series. The film will also come with some changes, including budget cuts and a potential recasting of the antagonist. The Fast and Furious series was once one of Hollywood's biggest blockbusters. However, the franchise suffered a financial setback with Fast X, which prompted those responsible at Universal Pictures to reconsider their approach. Despite a reasonable worldwide box office result of $704 million, Part 10 continued the negative trend and even fell short of the earnings of its predecessor, Fast and Furious 9. According to Variety, Universal will still be able to make a profit, but in view of the production costs of over $340 million, this is likely to have been a small one. Universal is now apparently planning to take drastic measures to come out of the situation with a positive result. Hollywood insider Jeff Snyder reported that the budget for Fast and Furious 11 is to be significantly cut. This time, the limit will be $200 million. Although this is still a considerable sum, it is nonetheless a significant reduction compared to its predecessor. But there will also be some changes in terms of content. Fast and Furious 11 is allegedly planning a return to the origins of the series. Instead of global missions, the focus is now on one last big heist. We might even be able to look forward to the good old quarter-mile races again. As things stand at the moment, it can be assumed that the cast of Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, and Jason Statham will return. However, Universal seems to be considering dropping Jason Momoa from the film and introducing a completely new villain. Momoa, meanwhile, could meet Dwayne Johnson's Luke Hobbs in an already confirmed spin-off project. The two seem to have unfinished business anyway. News from Harry Potter. Last year, Warner Brothers announced that the story of the famous Hogwarts student would be remade in the form of a series. A number of writers are currently pitching their best ideas to the studio. There are also more and more rumors that several series from the Harry Potter world could be developed. Although the announcement of a Harry Potter series remake was met with a rather mixed reaction from fans, Warner Brothers still seems to be confident about the project. The concept behind it is to produce a separate season for each of the books. The aim is to deal with significantly more details of the original book series that only played a subordinate role in the previous movies or did not feature at all. Since this announcement, the Wizarding World has turned into a veritable playground for authors, as they are competing for the coveted chance to adapt J.K. Rowling's 7 books into a series. A report from Deadline states that well-known writers such as Martha Hillier, Kathleen Jordan, Tom Moran, and Michael Leslie have already submitted their creative visions to streaming service Max and Warner Brothers Television. The group has been tasked with creating pitches for a series that reflects their individual take on J.K. Rowling's intellectual property. However, it remains unclear how involved J.K. Rowling is in the decision-making process. As Deadline further reports, the choice would not necessarily have to fall on just one author. The multitude of interesting ideas could rather lead to several Harry Potter projects being developed at the same time. However, it is important to emphasize that the entire process is still at an early age. Representatives from Max and Warner Brothers have so far refrained from commenting on the matter. What is certain, though, is that Warner has big plans for the series. CEO David Zaslav has already revealed that the series is to be released over a period of 10 years, which is quite an impressive announcement. Action fans, listen up. Top Gun is getting another installment with Tom Cruise. The immense success of the sequel, Top Gun Maverick, released in 2022, was probably not expected by many. The action spectacle grossed about $1.5 billion worldwide and was also nominated for a total of 6 Oscars. The movie was then awarded in the Best Sound category. Although the sequel was very popular, there was no talk of a possible third part for a long time. But that has changed. As Deadline reports, Top Gun 3 is actually in the works at Paramount Pictures. Tom Cruise, aka Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell, will of course be returning, as will Miles Teller and Glenn Powell. There's no news about the return of Jennifer Connelly and Jon Hamm yet. Based on initial information, Joseph Kosinski is to take over as director again. Kosinski is currently also working on a Formula One film called Apex, starring Brad Pitt and Javier Bardem.
Paul Verhoeven's action spectacle Robocop is one of the ultimate cult films of the 80s, and was particularly impressive with its cynicism and brutal violence. Several sequels followed over the years, and finally a reboot in 2014. Now, a series is in the pipeline, for which the streaming giant Amazon will be in charge. According to Variety, Peter Ocko has been appointed as writer, executive producer, and showrunner for the Robocop series. Ocko has already been involved in a variety of projects, including series such as The Office, The Leftovers, and Black Sails. In addition to Ocko, James Wan is also involved as an executive producer. Wan will supervise the series under his production company, Atomic Monster. The official synopsis of the series tells a future in which a giant tech conglomerate works with the local police to develop a technologically advanced enforcer. This half-human, half-machine enforcer is designed to combat the growing crime rate in the city. The series' idea is strongly reminiscent of a dystopian approach of the original 1987 film, which became famous for its blend of brutal action, satirical societal criticism, and the reflection on the connection between man and machine. Sounds like they want to go back to the basics, and we're very excited. This series simply cannot be put to rest. The Resident Evil franchise, meanwhile, comprises 7 live-action adaptations, animated films, and a Netflix series. Although the last film adaptation, Welcome to Raccoon City, was not a huge hit, Sony is giving it another go. A new Resident Evil film is currently in development. According to the well-known insider, the Insnider, the director of the acclaimed horror film Barbarian, namely Zach Kreger, is to take on the new project. According to initial information, filming is set to begin as early as next year. And as for the cast, there's no information yet, except that they're looking for a black male actor in his 20s. But the key question remains, can a new creative mind turn things around for the Resident Evil adaptations? The last few movies and series have failed to satisfy the game's loyal fan base or the mainstream audience. The movie series by director Paul W.S. Anderson with Mila Jovovich focused primarily on action and effects. While the atmosphere of the games was neglected, the reboot Welcome to Raccoon City aimed to do things differently, but still wasn't able to win over fans. We're eager to see what approach the new Resident Evil movie will take, but the choice of the director certainly sounds promising. The Alien franchise is back. The latest film, Alien Romulus, grossed over $100 million globally on its opening weekend alone, a huge success. Now director Fede Alvarez has spoken about a potential revamp of Alien vs. Predator, which he'd like to direct together with Dan Trachtenberg. This would make perfect sense, as the Predator film Prey, directed by Trachtenberg, was also very popular. And according to insiders, a sequel is already in development. We can also look forward to a standalone Predator film penned by Trachtenberg in the form of Badlands, in which Elle Fanning will take on the leading role. In an interview with Deadline, Alvarez joked that the concept of Alien vs. Predator could have similarities to From Dusk Till Dawn by Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. In other words, he'd like to direct one half and Trachtenberg the other. At the same time, though, the director emphasized that the success of Alien Romulus and the associated interest from fans would be decisive in determining whether a new film version would happen at all. We can't wait to find out. A veritable celebration for all comic book fans. From July 25th to July 28th, 2024, the annual Comic-Con took place in San Diego, where big studios provided new insights into their upcoming projects. Kevin Feige revealed that the Avengers' fifth adventure will now be called Avengers Doomsday, and, like Part 6, will once again be directed by the Russo brothers. In keeping with this, a number of Doctor Doom characters entered the stage. One of them eventually came to the fore and removed the iconic mask from his face. And underneath was none other than Robert Downey Jr., who announced his comeback with the words, "New mask, same task." The cheers were endless, even if the question now naturally arises as to how the return of the former Iron Man actor will play out. However, as we already know, the multiverse and its variations of well-known characters offer countless possibilities. Either way, the MCU now apparently found its new main villain, who plays a key role in the comic book version of the 6 Avengers film Secret Wars anyway. It's also possible that Doctor Doom will already make a small appearance in the Fantastic Four film. After all, he is the big antagonist of the superhero squad, who are likewise set to make an appearance in the 2 Avengers movies. Avengers 5 Doomsday will be released on May 1st, 2026, and Avengers 6 Secret Wars on May 7th, 2027. We are very excited. News from Pandora. During the D23 Expo, James Cameron spoke about the third part of his Avatar film series and revealed the first details about the title and plot. The title of Avatar 3 will be Fire and Ash. Cameron also presented the first concept drawings, which show Neytiri on a Banshee, giant airships, and the mysterious ash people of the Na'vi, who are strongly attracted to violence and power. The director promised that the third film will take viewers to new, unexplored regions of Pandora, and the adventure should not only be visually impressive, but also deeply moving. The plot picks up shortly after the events of Avatar 2: The Way of Water, and follows Jake and Neytiri as they encounter the Ash People. Among the new characters is Varang, who is played by Game of Thrones actress Una Chaplin. David Thewlis and Michelle Yeoh are likewise part of the future cast, although the latter will not make an appearance until Avatar 4. In addition to the new cast members, many familiar faces from the previous movies are also returning, including Sigourney Weaver, Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, and Kate Winslet. Fire and Ash was originally planned as one film together with The Way of Water. However, due to the sheer amount of material, Cameron decided to split the story into 2 movies. Avatar 3 will be released in cinemas on December 19th, 2025. And according to The Hollywood Reporter, Cameron is also working on a new Terminator project. But it's still unclear whether this involves a series or a film.
Back to The Matrix. 3 years after Neo's return in The Matrix Resurrections, Part 5 is now in development, which will bring some significant changes with it. Most movie fans can certainly agree on one thing. The Matrix 1 is still seen as one of the all-time classics, and set new standards in the action and science fiction genre. However, there is still a lot of controversy surrounding the sequels, and 2021's The Matrix Resurrections is no exception. This was not only reflected in the mixed reviews, but also in the poor box office figures. With a budget of $190 million, the film was only able to bring in $157 million, a flop, so to speak. The strategy of releasing the movie on HBO Max at the same time as the theatrical release also backfired. And yet Hollywood still seems to have faith in the potential of the franchise. As Variety has now reported, Warner Bros. Is currently working on another movie. Unlike the previous Matrix films, the Wachowski siblings will only be involved as executive producers. This time, Drew Goddard will be directing. Not only did he write the screenplays for Cloverfield and Ridley Scott's The Martian, he also demonstrated his directing skills with The Cabin in the Woods and Bad Times at the El Royale. The decision to hire Goddard as director and screenwriter for The Matrix 5 was explained by Warner Production president Jesse Ehrman by stating that the director has the necessary ideas and skills to take the franchise forward. It remains to be seen what kind of ideas he has in mind. Whether Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss will return in their roles also remains unclear. But Neil Patrick Harris, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and Jonathan Groff will be back. After the global acclaim for X-Men 97, the new live-action adaptation of the X-Men now seems to be gaining momentum because a suitable scriptwriter has now been found. As Deadline reports, the highly anticipated X-Men movie will be written by Michael Leslie. Leslie was behind last year's prequel, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and also worked on Macbeth and Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender. The signing of Leslie apparently took place shortly after the season finale of the animated series X-Men 97, which was loved by critics and fans alike. The currently untitled X-Men film is still at an early stage of development, with no actors or directors confirmed yet. A release date has not been set yet either. However, Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, will produce the film. With the new movie adaptation, the X-Men will finally become part of the MCU. The X-Men universe was by far the most popular and lucrative Marvel franchise that Fox owned, with a total of 10 movies. However, after the rather mixed reactions to Dark Phoenix in 2019, it was clear that the Mutant Squad finally needed a makeover. And as we all know, a lot is possible with the help of the multiverse.
News from Westeros. After 8 seasons of the main series and 2 seasons of the prequel House of the Dragon, George R.R. Martin's popular fantasy world is to be expanded once again. A Game of Thrones movie is in the making. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the currently untitled project is still in the early stages of development, so there are still no details about the cast or the story. There are many possibilities, though. The surviving members of the Stark family could be the focus of the plot, for example. After all, Jon Snow was meant to get his own series dealing with his adventures north of the Wall. Or the story could be dedicated to Arya, who wanted to discover the unexplored territories west of Westeros at the end of the series. The fact that Warner is also considering movies alongside the series shows a bit of rethinking. Instead of limiting the Game of Thrones universe exclusively to HBO, a movie adaptation could attract new fans who have had little to do with the franchise so far. However, that doesn't mean we have to do entirely without any new series. After all, the next big Game of Thrones spin-off is coming next year with A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. There's no time for retirement. Denzel Washington is returning as ex-Marine Robert McCall to keep maintaining law and order in the future, as 2 new The Equalizer movies are currently in the pipeline. This was revealed by Washington in an interview with Esquire, and for some, this announcement may well come as a surprise. After all, many consider The Equalizer 3 to be the final installment in the series. Nevertheless, the global box office takings of $190 million on a production budget of around $70 million prove that fans want more, and Washington is ready to do his part. Quote, "People love those doggone equalizers. They want me to go get the bad guys." However, it's unclear whether the new movies will be directed by Antoine Fuqua again. In the past, he officially described The Equalizer 3 as the conclusion of the franchise. There are no concrete details about The Equalizer 4 and The Equalizer 5 yet, but according to Washington's statements, it seems that work is well underway. Rumors have been circulating for years, but now it seems to be getting really serious. Marvel Studios is said to be actively working on the development of a movie in which Hulk and Wolverine clash. This is reported by the well-known scooper My Time to Shine Hello, who has proven himself to be a reliable source on several occasions. The idea of an epic duel between the Hulk and Wolverine has its roots deep in the world of Marvel. Wolverine made his debut in 1974 in Incredible Hulk number 180, when he fought the mysterious Department H against the Hulk. By the time the MCU kicked off with Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk in 2008, the Hulk was still one of the franchise's key characters. However, due to some rights problems, the character has not been given his own solo film since then, although he was very prominent in projects such as Thor Ragnarok and She-Hulk. In an interview back in 2014, Hugh Jackman stated that there was no doubt that Wolverine and Hulk would one day face off against each other. After his return in Deadpool and Wolverine, he also seems to have taken a liking to continuing to embody the mutant. Hulk actor Mark Ruffalo is also allegedly not opposed to the crossover. At present, it's still unclear what the planned project will ultimately look like. Will it be a spin-off with the familiar actors, or a sort of new beginning in the MCU? The possibilities are endless. We can't wait to find out. Fans of giant robots, listen up. With Voltron, we're about to get a live-action adaptation of the anime of the same name, starring fan favorite Henry Cavill. The movie is based on the popular mecha anime series Voltron Defender of the Universe. It was adapted for Western audiences in the 1980s based on a Japanese series. The plot revolves around 5 young pilots who control special robots in the shape of lions. These robots can unite to form a powerful mega robot called Voltron to take on a tyrannical menace in space. As revealed by The Hollywood Reporter, Henry Cavill will be joined by Daniel Quinn Toy, who has so far mainly appeared as a theater actor. The screenplay for Voltron was written by Ellen Shanman and Red Notice director Ross and Marshall Thurber, with the latter also directing the film. The involvement of Amazon MGM Studios in the project is also interesting. This connection could be one of the reasons for Cavill's involvement, as the actor is already working with Amazon on the planned movie adaptation of the Warhammer 40K universe. $1.7 billion at the box office. The first 2 parts of the Jumanji reboot were clearly a success. Naturally, another sequel must follow. The theatrical release date for Jumanji 3 has now finally been announced. The new blockbuster will hit movie theaters on December 11, 2026. And the competition in this month is quite notable. On the one hand, a currently unknown Star Wars movie is scheduled for release, and on the other, there are plans for the release of Dune 3. According to The Hollywood Reporter magazine, Jake Kasdan is in talks to direct the film, as was the case with the previous movies. The main actors Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan are also expected to reprise their roles of their beloved avatars. No details are known about the plot of Jumanji 3 so far. In the first 2 parts, the characters had to overcome challenges together in order to escape from a video game. It's possible that the concept will be further developed this time with new elements being added. For example, it could be that the new movie is no longer taking place in the jungle, but in a different setting. We'll keep an eye on the project. One thing's for sure, if you've made it this far, you really are in the know about the most significant news of the year. But now we want to learn from you. What do you think of the 2024 movie year? Which movies impressed you, and what are your personal top tips? Are you hyped for the new movies and series in 2025? We hope you have a fantastic start to the new year and look forward to the next news. See you next time, your KinoCheck team.